Call this June 15th, 2020 work session to order. Roll call, Mr. Manning.
Mr. Rich,
Present.
Mr. Venable,
Present.
Ms. Gilbert,
Present.
Mr. Sis,
Present.
Chairman present.
We have enough for quorum. We have a prayer by Mr. Porter and a pledge by Mr. Reed.
Let's pray. Lord God, our Father, thank you for this day, the beautiful weather we've had. Thank you for this commission, all the members that are here that will decide matters of this county. We pray for wisdom and discernment. We pray for courage when that is called for to make decisions that are in the best interest of the people of this county. God, we're thankful for all of the families that are represented here. We pray that you'll continue to watch over us and guide us. God, we're always thankful for our first responders and law enforcement officers that keep us safe. We pray for them and pray for their families. We pray to watch over this body. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we need to approve the agenda of the meeting, but before we do, I'd ask that number 2, if we could postpone that to the budget hearings, and number 8A, postpone it to the budget hearing. So it'd be number 1, or number 2, I'm sorry. Number 2 and number 8A.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, before we approve that, I'd also like to add one, please. Go to number 9, I'd like to speak on a little about the splash tax that we met with the legislative group. Could, please?
You wanna do it under number 1?
Yes,
That's what that is.
It doesn't matter.
You can discuss it under that.
Okay, all right.
Alright, so everybody's good with those changes? Got a motion by Mr. Venable,
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Gilbert. All in favor say aye. All opposed? No awards presentations. Anybody sign up to speak?
No.
Move right on to discussion items for the commission. First be potential special session. I'll let Mr. Venable kind of,
Mr. Sis,
Okay.
who wants to go first? Do you?
Mr. Sis, you wanna talk about the splash tax?
Yes, and, what, I'd like to address that, is our need for our money that, we've been so dire need of all these past years. Seeing, nothing come forward, I know we've tried to meet different times and hope to come up with some solutions. And, we met, about 15 months ago, that I really remember correctly, and this, issue was brought up about SPLOST. SPLOUST. I've been trying to get a little information on it, don't really know a lot about it. I know it's been used over in Georgia. It was just voted on this past week and passed in several different counties there. What it amounts to is bringing in money for the county. It does not bring anything into our general fund. That was a question. Without stipulations, it would not help our general fund. But our solution is pretty grim. Our roads become little potholes, have become large potholes. With people coming into the community, the first thing to look at is our source of roads. I mentioned talking to Dale Armstrong here back around December, and he had said something about, he said, Mr. Sisk, he said, your beauty is unreal, what you have in Jackson County. He said, people don't mind driving the distance, coming back in the hospital. He said, we have the job opportunities. He said, but the roads are in bad shape. I said, yes, we tried to address that. After the election, I told the legislative group, I said, win or lose. I said, I still want to try to bring something forward, if possibly can. Well, I have met with them several different times, trying to come up with something. And we met last Wednesday, this past Wednesday, with the legislative group. Myself, Melinda, Danny, and Jason. That's what was spoke about, was the how to come up with some funding. The agreement that I was presenting was the SPLOST tax to try to come across. When I was out there seeing the people, I'm not a tax man. I didn't want any tax to come forward. But in order for us to move forward, I don't see anything that we can do, except maybe if the people were willing. This would take and go a penny on the ballot. If it's voted on by the people, it's got to be put on right away if they go back into another session. I talked with him, Steve, this morning. He said he got a phone call from the governor. Didn't know for sure what would happen, another session would be called or not. He said if it's voted on that way, he said we'll do what we can to bring it forward. And the way it would come about, I know we talked about it the other night, and we all agreed at the meeting that that's what we'd move forward on. And Chairman wasn't present at the meeting. He was in Montgomery on some other business. Well, we all had agreement when we walked out, and Mr. Benham would call me and left a message with all of us next morning that, he couldn't go along with that, and I understand that. We all have different views, and there's nothing against Mr. Benham at all about that. What it would amount to, I put in the municipalities and, to try to bring them into the play. It would bring in $6 million. We put it on a $6 year deal, which would be $36 million. Okay, our part of that would come into $4,575,402 and a few cents. The municipalities would have $1,424,597.95 if it was voted on and agreed. So that's what I was wanting to speak on tonight. Talked with Mr. Rich, and not Mr. Rich, Richie Horton, excuse me for that. Talked with him, talked with Tommy, and they said that if we want to do something, they were in agreement to do this, and they said that's where we're going to be. And Richie said I've talked to different ones. He said the splosh will work. It has worked over in Georgia. Tommy's presented several times to different people in the community, and he said the same thing. He said that's what they're wanting to go with. And like we said before, it will not bring any money to the general fund, but I'm hoping some of this other money has been appropriated that we set aside can be used, for the general funds upbuilding. Because without these roads, folks, we all travel them. Every one of us taxpayers. We all got businesses to go to. We've all got problems that we face every day in our life. But I don't see anything that's going to move Jackson County forward if we don't take a step and try to prevent these holes from getting larger and bringing in something that's going to make some tax dollars for this county. I may be looking at it the wrong way. Like I said, I'm not the man that can solve all the issues, but I feel like the people have been neglected a whole lot. We got 4 roads that's been shut down, and nothing has ever started. We've been attempted to do all kind of things. Our engineer has worked on them diligently, but those people live out there. They've been patient, and I feel like, being elected official, that I've neglected the people, that I feel like I've not brought anything to the table that really was improving for Jackson County. So that's my spoke on this right here, and I'll let them take the floor and see what's what, and I just want to put it on the table to maybe we can vote on next meeting, that we can move forward with it. If that's what the people want, we'll try to do something. This 6-year plan would not have to be done in 6 years. I know we don't have the manpower to do it all, but if it's not fulfilled like it was supposed to be, that's what happened to Dade County. They took it away from them. They voted back in this time from what I heard. But this money, we could start building roads, and we could see some improvements in Jackson County. I feel like the attitudes of people will change, and it might be something that we'll address here later on. And they said, hey, they made a statement, they made a showing. They showed us what they could do. And that's all I wanted to do when I was elected. Thank you.
Mr. Sis, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
That money would be generated, that $6 million would be generated from a sales tax increase voted on by the people in November. What was the amount of that sales tax increase? I don't believe you mentioned it today.
The 1 penny.
1 penny.
1 penny.
And it would last for 6 years.
For 6 years. Well, the son said at 6 years, it would approximately bring in $36 million. And that's why I was stating, I'm not the real spokesman on this, but I had, run the numbers and trying to figure out what was the best way. And it will, like I said, if I look at this correctly, it will bring in $4,575,402 and a nickel to Jackson County for all repair on roads and bridges. And I stated that, roads and bridges is what this will go to. But, any other questions, I'll be glad to try to answer. But, you know, I just feel like the legislative group, you know, we worked trying to get things done, a lot of things that have had some black eyes, and we come to agreement here tonight, and this is what we move forward on. But like I said, there was some little discrepancies, and no issue with that whatsoever. I've talked with all three of them, and they all stated that they're still in agreement to move forward with this, and will not be no problem on their end. They just need to get it on the ballot. Let me see right here. I wrote some other notes down here. He said, this right here would need to be on a bill could be prepared and advertised July the 1st, as there are 5 weeks in July. And it could be put on the ballot where it come open in November. That if Steve is still on the opinion that may not be no special session. You know, he said, I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. But you know, the question is, they see a lot of things that I guess that we don't see. There's a lot of unnecessary spending, what they're talking about, and there's going to be some dollars changed around, and they're all for making this right here work. But, so it's brought out to the people the best I can present it, and you know, if it can go forward, I would love to see some improvement done. But we're sitting here trying to do 10, 12 mile a year. And you make a turnaround on 1,117 miles, I'm pretty close, I think, Jonathan. That's gonna take 100 years, basically. But, so, thank you. Any other questions?
No other questions, just one comment for the people that are watching and here tonight. All the ideas that are gonna be discussed by Mr. Guffey, Mr. Venable, and Mr. Sis, just wanted to make sure everybody understands these ideas will be voted on by the people who put on the ballot. It's nothing that this commission is going to push on anyone. Thank you.
Not at all, because like she stated, I was not a tax man when it came to it out there. You know, I'd had questions over and over about the home rule, the 1 cent tax. I wasn't for it at all. I'd just like to see something change. It would be pushed out here to the roads that would help us out improvements. Thank you, Melinda.
Mr. Venable.
Yeah, I passed down to each one of you a list of the things that I can remember since I've been here. Be 8 years this November. I got sworn in November in 2012, and this is the list of 13 things I can remember that we've discussed. So the only one we took action on, the 1 cent sales tax, was asked to be put on the ballot, and it was. When it failed 60-40, biggest argument we heard was it was not earmarked. So we earmarked, asked for it to be put back on the ballot. The number 2 thing, we discussed the 1 cent sales tax to be shared with education. Then we discussed passed a resolution for 1 cent sales tax to be placed on the ballot, shared with municipalities for road projects, and county portion was also earmarked. Number 4 item, we asked for 2% of lodging tax. You can get this 2 ways. Lodging tax could be increased 2%, or the 2 cents that's currently collected go to the Chamber of Commerce and the Heritage Center. Those 2 entities could be funded directly off the top of the TVA in lieu of, therefore taxes wouldn't go up. I think total that's about $300,000. We would pay about a third of that if it come off the top of TVA in lieu of. So ultimately, about a $200,000 net gain if we done that. Number 5, we asked about possibly giving county a larger portion of the TVA in lieu of tax. Number 6, we asked for pro rata sharing to fund the sheriff's department. Number 7, we
Mr. Sis, hold on, please. Oh, Mr. Venable, apologize. Pro rata sharing, would you just explain that to the people real quick?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Number 7. Number 7, we also asked for pro rata sharing to fund the county jail. The sheriff's department and the county jail make up about 56% of the county's general fund. The pro rata sharing would allow the revenue commissioner to retain whatever portion of funds that was come up with and decided to do. And then that money would be passed to the sheriff's department or to the jail fund. So all municipalities, the county, everybody that the revenue commissioner collects taxes for would help pay for those instead of it just being a strain on the county's general fund. Number 8, we asked for increase distribution of tobacco tax. Number 9, at some point, countywide alcohol sales was discussed. Number 10, we asked for county business license. There's 2 counties in the state of Alabama, I think, unless something's changed since we explored this, but Cherokee County and Madison County sell a separate business license other than your state business license. Currently, if you buy a business license in Jackson County, you can work in 65 of the 67 counties, and Jackson County doesn't see anything from that business being in our area. Number 11, a couple of different times we've asked for increase on tag fees. A lot of other counties around us have that, and recently have raised theirs. Number 12, we asked for redistribution of the sales tax that's already collected. Currently, there's 6 cents of sales tax out in the county. 4 goes to the state, 2 goes to education. Anything else above 6 cents is paid to the municipality in which you're making the purchase in. Number 13, we had talked about a 9-cent countywide, which would raise the county sales tax to 9 cents. So anywhere in the county that you bought anything, you'd pay 9 cents of sales tax. But it wouldn't raise, it would exclude the municipalities, so the municipalities wouldn't go above that. These are all things we've discussed, and some of them I'm for, some of them I'm against. I don't get to make the decision. I get to weigh in and have my input. And the 14th thing is the splash tax, which is a temporary tax. Great. I think it does really good things. The splash tax is what the delegation has their heart set on, and I understand their position on it. It puts the taxpayer kind of in control, or really in control. I mean, if you don't perform like you say you're going to perform, don't do the projects you say you're going to do, then they vote it down next time. It would do a lot of work in our county on our infrastructure, but it does not address our employees. Our county employees had 1 raise in 7 years. It doesn't address the difficulty the sheriff has in keeping and having enough officers. It doesn't address or help with our turnover rate. We really need it on this work session. We need to make sure we get it on the next work session, the Tier 1 state retirement. We're nearing a deadline on whether or not we can opt into that, and that might help with our turnover, but it costs, I think, around $250,000 a year to do that. We have close to a 20% turnover rate. We just having trouble retaining employees. It would do nothing to shore up and ensure the future of our senior citizens programs, a lot of which, rural transportation, senior RX, and Council on Aging, some of those are vital to some people. I mean, they have to have those programs to survive. We pick up people and take to dialysis. We pick up people that don't have rides to go anywhere else, to go to the drugstore. I don't want to see those programs fail, and a SPLOST does nothing to make sure that we continue to have those services. A SPLOST doesn't free up any dollars in the general fund. It doesn't give the county commission any more tools to do anything to help our county grow, or for us to be a partner with municipalities on things. I am fine. We did meet last week. When we left there, before we left, one of the delegation asked me if the SPLOST was on the ballot, would I vote on it? Yes, I would. If it was on the ballot, I would vote on it. But as a county commissioner, I cannot stand up and ask them to do something that's not gonna help all these other issues that I mentioned. Those have to be addressed. Those are our responsibilities. And we're falling short in being able to take care of our responsibilities. So if we can come up with some way of, and in a text that I sent, in my communication with you, Mr. Sis, the next day, I said I couldn't be for it unless it was coupled with something that addressed these other issues. So if we can pick something out of this list or come up with something else to couple with a splosh tax, then yes, I could, as a commissioner, ask that a splosh tax be placed on the ballot as long as one of these other things would help take care of these issues that I mentioned. That's all I've got.
Mr. Finn, I got one question for you on all that. What you have brought up, did we not pass a resolution not long ago for 1 cent sales tax to be placed on the ballot that would be earmarked, that would do road and bridge projects, but at the same time took care of these other situations as well?
We did. We asked for a 1 cent sales tax to be placed on the ballot, be permanent sales tax. Delegation is against that. I understand that they are against it. I understand why they're against it. That's not something they want to do. That's what the commission voted, and I think it was unanimous vote that we sent that resolution. I can't remember if anybody abstained. We did not get a no vote.
No, it passed 100%.
So, that's what the commission asked, to take place. The delegation does not have to have our permission. If they want to do a splosh tax, we don't have to ask them to do a splosh tax. Am I right, Mr. Board? I mean, they're not handcuffed by us. They can do a splosh tax if that's what they want to do, but it's not going to address these other issues. Currently, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Campbell, but are we not stretched as thin as we can be? I mean, would it not be difficult for us to prep and get ready and manage $4 million worth of projects a year with our current staff?
Yes, I do appreciate the interest in road and bridge work and recognizing that, and I appreciate all your efforts in moving that direction as assistants, but that package and improvement must include allowances for personnel. So unfortunately, it's not as simple as us just resurfacing or reconstructing. There are things scope-wise that require personnel, in-house personnel. So some of this would lend itself to contract work. Some of it is mandatory that it be done by in-house personnel to move forward. So any part of the formula, I would just ask that you please consider allowances for in-house personnel to be part of that. And retainage is an issue with current, but the numbers is also an issue. So to answer, that's a long answer to your question of yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to address a few of the things that just brought up Mr. Bennett right there. But, like I said, we came here to work together, and we've got to see differences and to move forward. Here back a few months ago, we did make a resolution to take the SSUT tax and put it over on the, I believe it was a jail fund, and also the senior RX council on aging things. As of today, as of June 8th, that's brought in $580,000 from last October when the budget started. That's money that we didn't really know we was going to get to keep right there. I mean, we had, but that's where we were at. But some of the other issues that were stated was, bringing it back to general fund. I think what they were looking at, a paper they also gave us other than that, was all the different counties right there is Ryansville, Fort Payne, Collinsville, Gadsden, Boaz, Albertville, Garnersville, Gurley, Arab, Madison Hospital. The tax that they're on is 9%. Gadsden is on 10. Gadsden just lost the biggest business they ever had, Goodyear. Just like it was when we was in here in Jackson County years ago. It funded a lot of families. Now it's gone. And that's the part that they're scared of. They said if you put a 1 cent tax out there without mandating it for roads, they said, I don't think it'll pass at all. Tommy's been presenting it quite a bit, like I said earlier. Richie's been there with him to try to do some things. Mr. Venable had mentioned back earlier that 1 cent education. That was my whole story back when we started this, back about 15 months ago. That I didn't want to put a tax on anyone. That 2% education that we write a check out to every month that goes, I can't remember for sure. Correct me. What's the numbers on it right there? County gets what, 60? What? How's that go?
Roughly 2/3 go to the
Two-thirds.
county education system.
I started to say
1/3 goes
62,
to the
3%.
city education.
And the city gets the other part. Well, when I brought that up, that wouldn't be a tax burden on anybody, our county superintendent really had a fit. You know, he did not like that at all. He wouldn't agree with that at all. And I said, well, you know, it's all involved, the school system, all of our teachers, our parents, everybody travel these roads. Mr. Dukes, and I said, you know, we're both elected officials, we need to try to work through this together. And cause that would be the simplest deal, cause a lot of the people you talk to out there, I'd say 80% of them, they have no idea that these 2 pennies all go to education. And nothing comes back in the general fund, and that would have been the simple matter for us. But there's so many issues that can be brought up, you know, which way to go and what's the correct thing to do. But I feel like that we've sat here, and when I brought this up before, you know, I presented it the other night, you know, I did have other entities involved. I mean, we already had this involved for the senior RX, council agent, rural transportation, but I had it in the first time on this when I brought it up, and I also had the ambulance service involved. I put in volunteer fire departments, which I always think they're definitely in need of help. I had in the sheriff's department, and I had in the EDA department. And after it was talked among us, you know, it did not come out that way. And I said, I'll just bring it to the table, and I want to hear everybody explain what they think is best. And, you know, Mr. Venable did make a statement, which I understand. He said he, you know, declined on some of these things. He said, if it's going on roads and bridges, I will vote for it. And I said,
If it was on the ballot.
yes. And I said, well, I can go along with that. I said, that's why I brought it up here tonight to present it. I said, I've been trying to get something together for some time. And I said, we can eliminate these other ones here. You know, just let it go to municipalities, and that'll bring more money back to the county for the roads and bridges. And like he addressed, and I talked to Jonathan the other day, you know, we don't have the manpower to make all this happen. It can't happen immediately. But if this tax dollar is coming in and we're doing things that's necessary and the people are happy with it, we'd have the time frame to push it aside. It don't have to be done in that 6 years. Just says it's because it's got a 6-year sunset. Because I asked that question. They said as long as them dollars are still sitting there and not used on nothing but roads and bridges, if it takes 9 years, it can still go. But when you start taking it out and putting it on some other things that was not involved in what it was voted for, it will not last, they said. And I said, well, that's the way I want to put it on the ballot. If you're gonna vote for it that way, whatever we decide, that's the way I want to go with it. So my thoughts were anything we can do to make a showing to get some roads fixed in this county. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Venable.
Thank you.
I got a couple questions. Like I said, I wasn't at the meeting, but what do you propose we do if we do? Well, let me back up. The splosh tax. It is a great tax. I talked to Dade County's chairman myself, who's used it for about the last 20 years, and they bought police cars with it. You know, each time that they're gonna do something, they have particular projects or things they need to buy. But Dade County gets sales tax. They've already got growth tax in place. But my only question is if you put a splosh tax on the ballot, how are we gonna hire more deputies? How are we gonna give raises to the 240 employees that's here that ain't had a raise in 7 years? I just real curious to see how we can do all that with a splosh tax.
Well, I'm gonna speak up again on that. Like I said, that SSUT tax money, we're hitting 600,000.
But according to the legislators, that'll be gone next year.
No,
Well, it's possible.
it
And-
could
and
be. It could
We
be
have to work
gone.
with the dollars that we have.
Right.
You know, there's a decision needs to be made, you know, and the way I see it, there's 3 choices. Nothing can be done, which is what's being done now. We have a road system in regression. We have a 20% turnover rate. We have a senior services that are on shaky ground, you know, I come up with a list of several things that is in jeopardy because nothing's being done. The only other two solutions to this problem is, somebody's gonna have to pay more or somebody's gonna have to take less. We don't get to make that decision. I want the voters to make that decision. We don't even get to allow the voters to make that decision. That's up to the delegation. They can put anything they want to on the ballot. And I support them putting whatever they want to put on the ballot. I cannot, in good conscience, ask for just one of these problems to be fixed. That's where I stand on it.
Mr. Chairman, could I address the SSUT just a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you. We seem to always want to talk about an increase in SSUT that's gone up a little bit. When we did the budgeting, last budget cycle, we looked at the previous 6 months or whatever we've been getting and did the number. It has increased substantially this year. It will level off possibly somewhere in the future. We don't know. Nobody knows. But we always tend to bring that one up. But here's another one I want people to think of. In the TVA in lieu of taxes, since 2012, we're budgeting over $1 million less now than we were then. So as we talk about an SSUT tax that's gone up a little bit, we need to keep in mind the loss of over $1 million in TVA in lieu of taxes this county has suffered with. Now, what makes us a little different there is we have no growth tax, as we've said many times, like a sales and lodging tax here. The cities, the municipalities, education, anybody that shares in sales and use and lodging taxes has seen substantial increases since then. Those taxes has increased more than what they lost in their share of the TVA in lieu of taxes. So your county is sitting here budgeting with TVA in lieu of taxes $1 million less than it was in 2012. And that's just the way it is. We don't have a growth tax. Property taxes has gone up a little bit, but nowhere near the amount of money that's been lost. So, and as someone mentioned, the SSUT is doing good this year. The county, but what people need to also understand with that doesn't mean all municipalities get a cut of that also, and the state gets a cut of that. And of the cut that goes to the state, they pay their percentage to education. So it's not just the county that's getting SSUT. It's all municipalities in this state, all counties in this state, and then the state gets their 4%. So let's just keep that in mind as we discuss SSUT. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
For anybody that don't, that's watching, doesn't understand what SSUT tax is, it's the Simplified Seller's Use Tax. It started 4 years ago, roughly, I can't remember.
17, I think,
But it's gained every year, and what it is, it's the internet sales tax, but I can't remember which companies. They voluntarily started paying a percentage to the state of Alabama. ACCA is the one that asked them to do this, bargained with them, got them to do it, and then it split up. And like I said, it gained every year, and it did outperform this year considerably from what we had budgeted. But we budgeted conservatively because there was a lot of buzz about possibly part of that going to another entity, possibly education. It's outperformed. If you project it out, it's probably going to outperform our line item on our revenue sheet by around $350,000. So I can think of three things right off the bat that needs to be done that we could spend $350,000 on. Our employees, number one, they would take care of one raise. We could our tier one. We opt into tier one, it could cost nearly that much. And we're currently having a study done by Auburn that's, see how we compare to our other entities, counties and municipalities around us to see where we compare on our pay scale. That could very easily cost us $350,000, maybe more, maybe less. But just because that's outperformed, that I say small amount, that's a lot of money to me, it's a lot of money to anybody that works for a living, but it's not a lot of money to a county this size with the responsibilities that we have. That's, to point at that and say, look, y'all okay, that's just ridiculous to me.
Thank you, Mr. Venable. May I address something real quick on that? Our ACCA that he was talking about, for those of you that are more familiar with education, it's like AEA for education. It's our organization that goes to Montgomery and fights for commissioners and for the counties. And am I correct in stating that, gentlemen? Okay. And as far as the SST, the tax, COVID, would that have had some increase with their,
Possible that we've seen some increase, I don't know if those numbers, we lag like at least a month behind on it, so.
The one we just received, first of this month, was up about $3,000 over the previous couple months.
so this is something we may foresee in the future or may not, it just depends on how things go.
Like I say, when it started in 17, they paid us quarterly, and it was a very small amount per quarter. Then in 18, it went up some as some of the bigger companies like Amazon or whoever joined in. It's a flat 8% sales tax on everything that's bought over the internet, like we're discussing. And of the 8%, 4 goes to the state, and then the other 4% is divided up among all 200 municipalities and all 67 counties. So that's what they've got, some calculation they do in Montgomery, and they distribute that out each month that way. And ours is like I say, the most recent month was about 3,000 over what we've been averaging, so not dramatic, but up some.
Thank you, Mr. Manning, for clarifying that for me. And one other thing, I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Venable said. We don't have the authority to put anything on the ballot. We, as a commission, do not. It's the legislative delegation that does that. And at this point, they keep redirecting this body back to the splosh tax. They are basically not willing, it doesn't seem like, to put anything else that of the 13 things that Mr. Venable listed on there. So that's where we get stuck in the middle and agreeing, disagreeing, even fighting amongst ourselves about it. So, you know, we again don't have the authority. We're just trying to find something that the legislative delegation will work with for the benefit of the good of the people of this county. Thank you.
Mr. Rich?
Well, definitely, we gotta have work done on the roads. But if we don't have the manpower to see those jobs through, what good is it to have 10 employees that you're spreading all over the county right now, or 15, 20? How many employees are we down now that, what would we be comfortable with to maintain the county public service, Jonathan? We're down, what? How many are we losing?
We're down 7 currently.
7.
Since 2012,
I mean, last time, not this time, not to rebuild Alabama, but the previous time, the state increased the gas tax. I think we had close to 50 employees in public works. Now we have 39.
39. We're down 7 with that.
So,
But, you know, we've got to start somewhere, but we've got to think of our employees also. But leave it up to people to vote. You know, they're the ones that's not gonna be voting on it. It's not up to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one more comment about the gas taxes?
Yeah.
I want to clarify that too. These gas tax funds are restricted funds. We're using these funds exactly as we're supposed to use them. Mr. Campbell and myself, we review the budget. I think you'll find out that our records are audited every year. There's never been an issue with any of our restricted gas tax funds not being used properly. As we stand right now, it pretty much takes all of our gas taxes to fund our operations for public works. It leaves nothing left over to put toward roads and bridges. Now, the reason they look at that every year is they'll come in, they'll analyze every fund, and they'll make sure that we're repairing roads and bridges as we should. There's never been an issue, is that correct, Mr. Campbell?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this county is handling the funds that come in off the gas tax fund exactly as we should. The problem is there's no money left over to put toward roads and bridges. And the Rebuild Alabama, 600,000. This current year, we're doing about 7 or 8 miles. All right, it's by August of this year, you guys got to approve next year's Rebuild Alabama, which we'll probably do maybe 10 to 11 miles. Yet we have to have that submitted and approved by August, Mr. Campbell. So you'll be making a determination for next year's funds within another month or so. And really, that's what we're putting toward our roads and bridges right now. It's our gas tax funds it takes to operate our public works department, and the patching, the ditches, all the spraying, all the maintenance to our roads that they're doing now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one other comment? One thing that was brought up, and I think the employees, I hope they realize where I stand with them. Mr. Bob brought up a good point right a while ago about the little tax dollars. You know, when you lose $1 million, you've lost a great sum right here in Jackson County. It's hard to recover that. But our employees, I feel like is our number one asset. Doesn't matter what department you're in. But when I came in office back in 2016, that was one thing I pushed for, and I have every year, is continue to take care of these employees with raises. They have families, they have matters at home. It takes dollars to provide for them. And I always want to let them know that I am there for each and every one. Thank you.
Mr. Sisk, you've definitely got the right, if you want, to ask for this to be voted on next week. I've stated how I feel about it. I think, if it's on the ballot, I'll vote for it, but as a commissioner, I cannot ask for it. I may try to come up with something to put before the commission next week to vote on that couples something with it, that would make it, where we can take care of some of these other problems or have a little bit of security with some of these other issues. But I appreciate everybody's input on it. If anybody has any input on what you think we could add with it, if it's something other than the things I could remember we discussed, please speak up or get with me later. We'll talk about what we might could add, couple with it to get something that we could possibly get on the ballot. This is no guarantee, like Mr. Sis said, whatever we come up with has to be advertised for 4 full weeks in a local newspaper. We'd have to have it voted on next Monday to have it ready to go on July the 1st. Is on a Wednesday, and we could start advertising it then. So that would barely give us 4 weeks to get it advertised before August the 1st, and, I think the delegation had, said that they think that if they go into a special session, it'll be 1st of August, so this week is it. If we don't come up with something, vote on that Monday, the likelihood of the voter getting to see something to vote on is slim.
Well, I'm still open, like Mr. Trimble said, if any of you out there are listening to us, if you got any comments right now, put them out, because our time has come to the end. And, the ones that I mentioned before, we withdrew them other than that, because, that's what we decided on. And it would put more money on the roads and bridges. I would be willing to put those back on and supply some of these needs. But when we walked out, the agreement was, and the legislative group, they said, well, we finally had a meeting that we all agree on, and he said, just make it happen and we'll move forward. And as long as the governor will allow us to come back in session, we'll put this where the people can make the choice, one way or another. And that's what I did. As of right now, from what we agreed on other than that, I'm not trying to cause any confusion at all, but we're time down. Now, if Mr. Ben will bring something back, I will be willing to look at it and see. But I don't think our legislative group are gonna be back available too much to do anything and to go forward. I would like to put it on the agenda for next week to go ahead and take a vote on it anyway.
Anybody else got a direction you wanna go? potential special session.
Mr. Chairman, one thing before we go on. The way I presented that while ago, you are the working body out there. I want you to know. The way it was set up when I first came to the table, now we looked at it different. To be okay, commissioners, if I present this right here, what we had we go before,
What are you talking
I
about?
don't know what it's talking
about the items that I had that was different entities involved. Are you ready?
If you wanna bring that to vote on next week, you put it however you wanna put it, Mr. Sisk, and put it before the commission, the commission will vote on it. We'll get a favorable vote, we'll send a resolution to them, if we don't get a favorable vote, then we won't, so.
All right. Moving on to number 3, county vehicle policy. It's been brought up several times. I just wanted to clarify this with, done a little bit of checking. We've already got a current policy in place. Mr. Porter, do you agree with that, that we already have a?
We do have a vehicle use policy. Yes, sir.
Or what does it consist of, Mr. Porter?
It describes the amount that we assess to a public official who drives a public vehicle on a regular basis. And it assesses a certain amount, and I may not be right on the exact amount, I think it's $3 a day. Something like that, for personal use, if someone drives a vehicle home, and then, because of the necessity of them going out during the night or other things like that, so we do have a policy. It's been in effect for years.
Well, I'd like to comment on that just a minute while we're on, Mr. Chairman, if I could. You know, I've been the one that's questioned this, and how do we go ahead and get dollars approved, you know, across the road by the county? It's not only across the road, it's the people. And when I say that, it's the people's money. And when we're sitting around here with no money involved, and we turn around and we're spending money that belongs to taxpayers and wasting it in a way that is not necessary, I can't sit right here as elected official and not bring up something about it, you know. Because I see that the office, when you took the chairman's seat, I didn't see the previous chairman's driving a vehicle. And I did not realize that there was anything there on that. And I told you before, I have no problem with you with this truck and driving it as needed to meetings. But, you know, I feel like we're breaking the law and we're taking advantage of the people. And one of the things we're breaking the law on is me, myself, elected official sitting right here. And we're doing it on several different things. And there was a ruling made, and the item number was 45-36-160 in 1995, June 26, 1995, by Mr. Albert Hall. And it was ruling, and I'll tell you what, some of the things that we're doing is illegal. We're running these vehicles without any decals on them. And it's happening by several different ones. And according to this right here, we're the ones that's liable for this. And we're the ones liable, and it can be taken away from our ability to do things and our compensation as far as our dollars. So I didn't want to break the law. I feel like it's unnecessary what's been done. And I feel like these vehicles should be used when absolutely necessary. And there's not only one, there's other ones there. And I don't just hesitate. I mean, I know Ross is doing a great job for us, and I commend him for that. But, you know, driving a vehicle back and forth to home, I feel like it'd be cheaper to do mileage if we had to come back in and do an IT problem. Now, I'm just stating my point. I don't know where the rest of them are, but, you know, running a business, you've always had to do what you thought was best for the business. If you're gonna have a net line at the bottom, it's gonna come out with any money. And that's where I stand.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, about illegality, and I understand, I know what Mr. Sis is talking about regarding the decals. That act that was passed in 1993 leaves it up to the commission to implement that act. So there is an act in place, but it leaves it up to the commission to implement that act. So that's the job of the commission, to implement the act. To my knowledge, that act has never been implemented. I don't know, at least not during my term.
All right, does anybody else have anything on policy?
As far as currently, anybody that drives a vehicle home pays out of their salary, it's docked out of their pay,
Yes.
$3 per day to
Yes.
drive that vehicle. So 52 weeks a year, 5-day working week, of course I know the holidays and all, but you know, for quick math, that's about $780 a year that that employee is giving up in order to drive that vehicle.
Right.
The vehicle that Mr. Sisk is questioning, which is the vehicle that the chairman drives, we bought that vehicle for $5,000. So Mr. Guffey's paying $780 a year to drive a $5,000 vehicle. Mr. Guffey doesn't turn in any time, so if you turn any mileage. So if he turned in mileage, well, we pay Mr. Guffey, you know, to drive his personal vehicle. I hadn't done the math, but I'm pretty sure that the taxpayer is coming out ahead. Now, had we bought a brand new $30,000-$40,000 vehicle, yeah, that would have been ridiculous. But for what we give for the vehicle and Mr. Guffey paying what's on the pot, I don't see an issue with it, and I think the taxpayers is saving overall. And, you know, pointing out these little bitty things that rub people the wrong way, when we've got a huge problem, that's not productive, you know, and we need to be productive. You know, we're elected by 50,000+ people to take care of the county's business and to be adults about it. And I just don't agree with the small petty stuff and disagreements and let's do what's right. If we don't agree on what's right, you know, that's why there's 5 of us or 4 of us that vote and a tiebreaker. And we voted on everything that's been discussed, so I don't see the issue.
All right, that
Mr.
deals-
Chairman, I'd like to put it on the ballot right there to vote on it to see if they all still agree. Is there any problem with that, Mr. Porter? Since this resolution
Put it on
made,
the agenda.
agenda,
I'm sorry, you put it on the ballot?
put it on the agenda,
You can request anything on the agenda, it's up to the chairman to set the agenda.
Well, I would like to, because I look at this bill right here and it don't state exactly what it was supposed to be right there. Because, we're jeopardizing ourselves as me being an elected official.
All right. Any more comments?
I just wanted to double check or clarify something real quick. That Jason was saying about the mileage that we're saving with you driving the vehicle and everything like that. You are not getting paid personal mileage to drive back and forth to home. And I just wanted to make that clear to the people.
About $2,000 a year savings.
But I mean, but you weren't getting paid to drive back and forth to home. You're getting paid to drive to meetings, to check roads, to situations that were county involvement. I just want to make sure that the people understood you are not getting paid to drive here every morning and drive home every night.
Right, correct.
And the mileage that we were being charged prior to purchasing your vehicle.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see a printout of, the past year, if we could too, just to kind of have something scope of work on those miles, if that'd be okay.
Okay. I've offered them several times, but I'll get them back up.
Thank
All right, next be a MOU with Bucks Pocket State Park. That's something we need to decide on what's gonna go in there so we can get that for next week's meeting, if at all possible. Mr. Porter, could you, I know you're understanding the verbiage of what everybody's asked for. Yeah.
We don't have a draft. Have you not come up with a draft of a new?
I don't recall being asked.
No, that's what I'm talking about now.
Again.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about for,
Yeah.
I knew we had discussed it a
Right.
month or so ago, or 3 weeks ago, I don't remember when, but
No, what
I
I'm,
had some issues with
the verbiage.
you know, us assuming some responsibility that I don't feel like we should assume.
That's what I was just asking Mr. Guffey on number 3 on this one. Do you have this copy in your packet, Mr. Venable? It says that DeKalb County, Jackson County, and the DCNR shall each have the authority to order the closure of the gates when it is necessary for public safety. My question to Mr. Guppy there was what is the DCNR?
Department of Conservation and Natural Resources,
Thank you.
state parks.
Well, it goes on to mention him later on in the number 4A, so.
Correct. All right, you don't have a copy of it?
I believe Mr. Sis found his toward the back, mine was in the top of the stack. Has some yellow highlights.
Behind the minutes, are we supposed to approve it? No, these are for review for next week.
If you don't have one, I'll get you one. Sorry about
Mr.
that.
Porter, do you feel like this is gonna,
You don't want to do this one?
Oh, wait. I do have it. Sorry.
may I comment on an item, Mr. Chairman, please?
I'm sorry, what happened?
I said, may I make a comment on item right here, please?
The Buck's Pocket?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Porter, do you feel like this is gonna be a liability of us at any source of what down the road or somewhere or another? I mean, my thoughts were it should have stayed in the state of Alabama, the national parks involvement, you know.
There is, with the wording we have currently in the draft that my understanding is DCNR drafted with their legal counsel. It puts all of the responsibility on the two counties, Jackson County and DeKalb County. And it all sort of summarized in paragraph 13, where it says the counties will indemnify and hold the state harmless, which seems to me to be backwards. So it puts all responsibility, all legal responsibility on the counties, rather than on the state. So yes, to answer your question, yes, there is.
Well, I just felt like, you know, we talked about it a couple weeks ago with our lack of manpower of the sheriff's department, and them at somewhere or other over in Pike Rock Valley, and some come up over here, and they try to put a man over there, and something come about. It's gonna really put a burden on those folks too. I know Rocky spoke about it, and I appreciate him doing that. And you know, if y'all got anything to come in here a little bit, I appreciate it, because we don't want to take away from anything we can be a helping hand, but I don't want a liability to come back across for us later on either.
I think if we change the verbiage, Mr. Porter will be fine. It does need to be the responsibility of the park ranger, I think. And let the park ranger be that deciding guy when it's open and closed.
If I understand correctly, the gate on our side will be on the county road, not the state property, right? State park area.
That's
And
my understanding, but
Yes, it is.
Could we give that portion of the road to the state if they would take it, where the gate would be?
then you got other issues about maintenance, et cetera.
Right.
And it's a county road, and you can vacate it and give it to the state, but then it's a through road that goes on into DeKalb County.
Okay.
So it's not as simple as that. And another issue I talked to Mr. Campbell about, is the erection of the gate. We didn't have any, my understanding is we had no input into what the gate was gonna be like, what it was gonna be made of, whether or not it was crash worthy, et cetera. Somebody just decided that they would pay for it and they would accept whatever they would pay for, apparently. I really think Mr. Campbell needs,
Yes.
being a county engineer, he needs some input into what the gate looks like and what we're gonna be responsible for, opening and closing, et cetera.
And the liability issues involved, yes.
Sure.
Mr. Campbell, could you get with Mr. Porter and y'all get that worked out?
Mr. Chairman, I understand the gate is already there, it's already up. But their engineers measured it, put it up, and it's there.
On the DeKalb County side it is.
It's not on ours yet.
I don't think so.
I think on both sides.
Well, we had to go put barricades up because it wasn't up.
We do that at the very top, but I
Yeah.
think the gate is still on the bottom, but I don't know if they're using it yet because of the lack of having an MOU.
Now, they were requesting us to install it.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. I hadn't been down there since this happened, but my understanding is from Ranger Jones is it's up. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. I may have misunderstood. I thought it was just the DeKalb County side that was up. But
Of course, my also understanding from him was that this MOU said they were responsible for it, but we could assist them, we would have a key to it in case we needed to open it.
Right.
No, it states that you could be responsible for saying close it, or getting it closed.
So we'll leave that, everybody's good with it, the next week is pending, if they get that verbiage fixed, that they're responsible for it. Number 5 be the EMA surplus Tahoe. They got brought up. Tell a little bit of backstory about this, again, just to remind folks, during the COVID-19, when we were down, Highland's vehicle, something happened to it, and we were requested to loan them with the Tahoe that we had that wasn't using. And they got insurance on it, got the lettering for it, and that's what they've been driving back and forth as the first responder. Several lives been saved due to that, so I commend Highland and Matthew.
Willis.
Yeah, Willis. But anyway, at any rate, we have to decide what we're gonna do. Are we gonna sell it to them, we're gonna donate it to them, or we're gonna just take it back and do something else with it? And that'd be up to this body.
Well, my opinion, it went to a good cause. I just didn't like the way it was handled at the time frame, you know. And, you know, it has got value, and that goes back to the dollars of being attached and where we displace our dollars and use them. When I pulled it up on the Black Book deal, I gave a figure of the night, kind of what it was, and, you know, that was just kind of in between. And I went out and looked at it and seen, you know, what the vehicle was, and I'm just gonna go ahead and state a figure on what I would like to do, and be $5,000. You know, and I'm up for discussion, whatever. I'm not the one in charge, but I feel like that if we gotta dispose and let go of it and go into a good place, we need to have some dollars to come back in to make a showing.
Ms. Gilbert?
I'm fine, sir.
Do I have a comment on that? Okay. Mr. Reynolds?
I missed the meeting that this was on. What year model vehicle is it?
2009,
Yeah.
140,000 miles when it was got. Now, when I took a picture, it had 144, I think 145.
Mr. Smith, do you remember how much money they had to put in it just to get it?
Close to $3,000.
So they've already put close to $3,000, they've got
Yeah.
receipts for it, they've already put
So
in.
that was a
Well, was
lot
that
for the
repairs
vehicle.
or, yeah, was that for actually repairs for it to function, to it to work, or
Yes.
to
Yes,
get
it-
the striping and the
It
lights?
wasn't anything frivolous, it was all motor, drivetrain.
So it was in desperate need of repair when Felix was driving it then, right?
It was,
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it was, you know, pretty nice looking vehicle, and I just, pulled it up to see what it was.
Have y'all seen copies of those receipts, or they get
No.
those receipts? I mean, that needs to be.
no, but I can get you some.
I mean, that needs to be considered when if we decide that we wanna ask for a dollar amount, that definitely needs to be considered, you know, if they fix that vehicle up to make it roadworthy, we wanna ask more than.
Yeah,
If
Mr.
you get that, Mr. Smith, I'd
Sure.
appreciate it.
Be glad to.
Mr. Sis, I believe you have pictures, if you could forward those to us, since we're not able to go see it.
Okay, I will.
All right, we'll have that ready for next week. Number 6 will be the CARES Act resolution for transportation. Ms. Lynn, will you please explain to these ladies and gentlemen what the CARES Act resolution 5311 is?
Okay, this is actually the authorizing resolution for.
Hold on, man, let's get a mic. Yep. Sure. That way the people out in the community will hear what you're saying.
Somewhere.
Someone's got it.
Thank you.
It's on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is, the same resolution that we ask for every year to be made to be designated as the entity that is applying for the transportation grant each year. This year, it happens to be labeled as the CARES Act resolution because we have CARES Act money that is following through into 21 to be able to use with our transportation program. All it asks for is for you to give us this resolution stating that the Director of the Council on Aging is able to execute and file the application paperwork.
Okay. Anybody any questions for Ms. Lynn?
No.
Thank you. If everybody's all right, we'll put that on next week's meeting. It's gotta be voted on right away too, doesn't it? Okay.
Thank you.
Next be the MOA for the Rebuild Alabama Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. In your packets, please find memorandum of agreement between the state of Alabama and the Jackson County Commission. I'll draw your attention to paragraph 2 that starts with the bold whereas. That basically sums everything up, and this is, in summary, our end of the deal for Rebuild Alabama when it relates to the federal aid funds. So our recent commitment on County Road 90 Federal Aid Resurfacing Project will completely deplete our federal aid balance and will end our $533,000 allocation that we are used to receiving annually. It will be replaced upon signature and agreement with this memorandum. It will be replaced with $400,000 of state funds. And although that does not sound advantageous to the county, it actually is. So, along with less stringent requirements on our projects, less admin costs that we see annually, we will reduce north of 19% admin costs by the state, as well as a 20% match. So, just as a reminder, that federal aid allocation that we received and are used to receiving was on an 80-20 basis. So, as you read through this, if anything comes as a surprise to you or there are any questions that come from your reading, please reach out.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Campbell?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Number 8, be the Parks Department, cabin and laundry. You wanna start there?
Yes, as y'all know, we've always had a problem with our laundry, okay, and, it's hard to keep somebody clean, do the laundry and that sort of stuff, so I've come up with this, plan that maybe we could get the laundry done for anywhere about $20 per cabin through this company right here, T&M Rental Services.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we can look at it probably 6 months down the road and say, yeah, it's working okay, and we may have to raise our cabin rentals a little bit.
Right.
To take care of some of those. Now, and that means her, I can go down to that next one, her cleaning contract would have to be changed, but she would still have to do the cleaning, and she would still have to wash the comforters, and anything else. All he's gonna do is the towels, the dish towels, and the sheets.
Right.
She has to do the comforters, bed skirts, anything else that needs to be washed,
Okay.
plus clean cabins.
Right. Well, what's the residential contract for North Mountain Park?
Sir?
Residential contract for North
We
Mountain
done
Park?
a contract, and this is my fault, we should have had it redone, I guess, back in, September 2012. It probably should have just been for 5 years, but we put a trailer out there because we had so much vandalism at the North Mountain Park when we took it over back in May of 2011, the county did. So we had so much vandalism, people were doing wheelies out there and just knocking windows out and everything, so this commission decided to, let's move the old office trailer out there and put a residence out there. And since we've had somebody out there, we've not had no vandalism, we've not had no problem.
Okay.
Now, they have to pick up garbage, that sort of stuff. Now, what we need to put in this contract is they need to keep up the bathrooms after the baseball season,
Right.
okay? We was paying out a lot of money on vandalism. I'll agree with what Mr. Barnes just said on the bathroom issue, because I had 3 phone calls last year, and that's not even close to me, but, you know, I feel like that needs to be involved, where to keep those cleaned up for the next game. Well, I think the ball, when they're playing ball, the league needs to keep it up, because, you know, they don't pay nothing, you know, and it's great for the people out there, okay? Don't get me wrong on that, but they don't pay no lights, they don't pay no nothing, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna do the upkeep of the mowing and all that stuff, so all they gotta do is, you know, sell stuff out of the end, and that's where they make their money. So if they're gonna have people in there using the bathroom, then they should be cleaning the bathrooms at that time. Now, when ball season's over with, then we should resume it, simply because we have walkers up there, walking track.
Right.
Oh, okay, walking track would be your traffic then, okay.
Right.
And I'm sure the fields get used on the off-season by practice. For
They
teams
have
practice.
football, practice up there some, but very little.
So no travel ball teams use the facilities?
Ma'am.
No travel ball teams
They
use the
don't
facilities?
usually have no travel ball,
Okay.
you know, there. They was wanting to get the field up hard to get travel ball up there, but they just not got it yet.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one other, comment on that.
Yeah.
We also pay, or we're paying currently the utilities, water, gas, electric, all that stuff too, and it's, I'm gonna say, Carl, somewhere around 400 a month average, would you say? So that's part of the trailer being out there, and someone stays in it, but we do pay all the utilities also. Just wanna make sure you guys knew all that.
Mr. Porter, you think we can get another contract ready by next week, or do you think it's taking a little longer?
Well, this contract, if we need to change some of the duties, it's fine, we can do that. But it's a month-to-month contract, and so, I mean, it just continues.
Okay.
Until it's changed, but if we need to make changes to the duties or add some duties,
I think just the bathrooms during, after the baseball season.
well, the contract provides that, you can tell them what else to do. It's basically, there's a, and everything else the park manager says to do, provision. So we can change it.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
do it.
So we don't have to read it.
No, sir.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
The last one on the park department, been loan from the general fund. Mr. Manning, you wanna explain why we need to do this?
Yes, sir. As y'all know, with the Jackson County Park fire that we've gone through, kept y'all updated on that and all the outgoing expenses and the debris removal and everything. And the bills that sustained and our insurance paid a certain amount of it. But, it's looking like when all as I could say, when all the dust settles, we're probably gonna need somewhere around 200,000, maybe a little over. And what I'd like to see, just a memorandum that Mr. Porter could put in place that would, where the general fund could loan the park fund that money, go ahead and get that money in there, and we'll pay the final vendor that we owe. And at that point, when the park becomes able to pay that back, they could pay the general fund back the money. And we would just wanna do that, as a shorter term as we could, but I think it's, with all that's hit us with this fire and what's happened out there, I think it would be somewhere again around 200,000, and I would suggest maybe approving up to a maximum of 300,000, and we wouldn't do any more than what we needed, but actually loan the money to the park fund. That way it can be paid back to the general fund. If you just transfer it out without doing a loan, then the money's gone out of the general fund.
Right.
And that's basically what we'd like to do. And the quicker we can get it paid back, we would do that.
Okay. All right. Everybody's good, we'll put that on next week's meeting also. Next, we reports from staff. Mr. Manning, do you have anything else?
Just that our budget hearings are getting started up next week. I think everybody's got schedules on all of them and posted. So any questions or whatnot, like I say, everybody attend that possibly can get involved in them, and we'll get them going. Get our first rounds going as per that schedule. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Campbell?
I'd like to answer any questions if there are any.
Just people wanting an update on 17, please, sir.
So I'm happy to report that we did mobilize some equipment.
Would you mind getting the mic? I apologize for that, but.
No problem. I am happy to report that work did begin last week, although not in the project limits. We're awaiting the notice to proceed still. But we did start work on our adjacent debris reduction and staging area, and work will continue this week on that haul road into that location. So we're anticipating that notice to proceed any day. Once we receive that, then work will begin within the project limits.
Thank you, sir.
Got anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Manning?
Yes, I got a call today from, one of the poll workers at Long Island. There's some concern with, their poll place. You guys saw Long Island's voting building, about a 10 to 10. So they certainly have some concerns about the runoff election and social distancing and for the poll workers and for the voters. They did contact the church across the street from it, and they've agreed to allow the runoff to be held in their fellowship hall. Don't know if you all have to vote on that. Don't know what you want to do. And I understand the concern. I've been in it too. You know, if you've ever been in it, it's literally about a 10 by 10 building. So,
I think we'd have to vote on it for a temporary. Yes.
Anyway, if you guys want to do that, because I think everybody knows it's coming up.
You remember the name of the church?
I don't.
Long Island Baptist.
How many do they vote? 30?
Long Island Baptist.
Very small.
Okay, is everybody good with putting that on the agenda next week?
Yes, sir.
Will there be an issue with getting access to the building to put machines in and out, Judge?
I don't have a clue. I mean, whenever you vote on it, I mean, that's something that I don't even know who I don't know who the member of the church is.
I'll make a phone call tonight, and I got a friend over there that can direct me in the right way.
Good deal. Shouldn't be. I mean, they were agreeable to it. Talked to him today, and then this evening, the inspector called me back and said they already talked to him and they agreed to it.
Good. All right, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, Mr. Porter?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Sure. Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Mr. Barnes, do you have anything else? Ms. Thurman? All right, we'll move on to our comments from the commission. Mr. Sis, do you have anything else?
I'd like to say thank you to several faces sitting right here today that was involved in the walk yesterday. There are different ones. And Sheriff's Department is involved, probate judge, the news people, a lot of different ones here come out, and the ministers across the county, elected officials and other parties, and city police that lined everything up. And you know, I feel like it was a good afternoon. I don't know, I'd say probably 400 to 500 people involved, and unity was the main thing, and it turned out to be great. And I'm just glad to see that happen in Jackson County.
Ms. Gilbert?
Just glad that everything went over peaceful over the weekend, and great job to the Sheriff's Department in Scottsboro City last weekend also. Thank you.
Mr. Venable?
I don't have anything to add tonight, thank you.
Mr. Riggs?
Not a thing.
All right, with that, I'll enter motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.